Okay, and I think that we are live. I'm just gonna see if you guys will connect. Okay, they say that sometimes third time's the charm, but I think this is like the fifth time. But hello everyone. I'm so sorry that we were late. I having a lot of technical difficulties. I am in North Carolina actually this weekend, and you know Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So that's basically what's been happening. But I was determined to come out to say hello to you and to talk to you guys about your personal statement. So if you're a real one, if you're like ride or die and you are actually still here and you're watching and you're listening, please say hello. I would love to know. I would love to just shout you out and help you on your journey. And like I said, thank you for still being around, because I know that this is a lot of people's lunch break. And it's not ever my intention to be late. But we are going to kind of dive right in. How can you differentiate your personal statement from just your narrative resume? This is a question that my students ask me all the time, because we want to incorporate stories from our personal lives and we want to incorporate stories from our professional life. But sometimes as we're going through it, it can be really easy to just go chronological or end up feeling like we're just running through our resume. I don't know how many of you have ever had that concern that, man, this sounds just like my resume in narrative form. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about how you can avoid making your personal statement just your resume in narrative form, why it's important that your personal statement show emissions more than what they can get on your resume, and also the importance of showing instead of telling. So that first point, why is it important for your personal statement to be more than just your narrative resume? You know, I have talked to you guys about this analogy a lot. You want to make sure that your application, it's like a puzzle, right? And you have multiple different pieces in your puzzle. Now, you want to be a larger piece puzzle than maybe someone else. So you could be a 50-piece puzzle, or you could be an 1,000-piece puzzle. And the more admissions gets to know you, the more they get to appreciate you and understand you and see the different layers of you, the more impact your application is going to have on them, the more they are going to really want to advocate for you and want you to be a part of their law school community. But in order for them to do that, they really do need to get a full understanding of who you are. So if you continually give them the same exact puzzle piece, right? And I'm going to take an extreme example. Let's say your resume is about immigration. Like you've done a lot of work with nonprofit, immigration, that sort of thing. And then your personal statement is literally just going straight through your resume. Like, here's one thing I did after another thing after another, without any kind of personal touch. And then your diversity statement is, wait, you guessed it, about being an immigrant. Not that being an immigrant and your immigration story isn't important. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you've now told them the same story in 3 different ways. Instead of them learning 3 different sides of you, they've learned the same side 3 different ways. You are a 50-piece puzzle. You are not an 1,000-piece puzzle. You are not maximizing your applications for, for success, right? You're not giving yourself your best shot. So how do you make sure that you are, a 1,000-piece puzzle? By differentiating the different parts of your application and recognizing that they each do different things, but they each need to work in tandem together. So that's really important. Now, when you work with me or when I work with my students on personal statements, one of the things that I do like to do is I do like to have them pick stories and moments. You've heard me talk many, many, many times about the fact that you should not be constructing a single story narrative in your essay. Your essay should not just be one story. because then you're like a 10-piece puzzle, for real. I've not learned that much about you. I've learned about you in this one instance, but I really hadn't learned a ton about you. So, I don't want you to be a 10-piece puzzle. So you can't be and produce a single story narrative. I understand that there might be one really defining moment, and you can have one moment in your diversity statement, but in your personal statement, please give me more than one moment. At least 2. Ideally 3. 3 is a nice number. And yes, you should include both personal and professional stories, but keyword on include personal, and then the other keyword was stories. Okay, so when you're talking to me about this desire, this passion that you have to go to law school, because really your personal statement is like telling me and walking me through the genesis, the development of a passion, right? It's an arc that might not have started with you even knowing that you were going to go to law school. Sometimes we don't know where the arc ends, but it's an arc, right? So you're telling me one cohesive story with different parts. Those different parts are your different stories. You want to make sure that you have some sort of personal connection, because that part's not on your resume, right? And even when you talk about your professional experiences, you don't want to just tell me the same sentences that are on your resume. You want to make sure that you are focusing on stories, that you're focusing on moments, because those moments will show your character. Those moments will show how you react in situations, how you feel about situations, the development of your thought process. Those moments show so much, right? And so you really want to make sure that if you're just telling me the same things that I can get on your resume, I am not learning that much, right? It's not that you can't talk about things that are on your resume. And I'm going to take this moment to say that nothing in admissions is black or white. So I know that some people, they give advice and they're like, never do this. And I don't usually say that, except for please don't, you guys heard last week, please don't say I want to be a voice for the voiceless, because like nails, chalkboard, you're killing me. But I rarely give you complete absolutes. I do sometimes, right? Like, don't just tell me one story. Don't focus on your trauma. Don't center someone else. But in terms of actual topics, like people say, oh, can I write about this? Is this topic off limits? Is that topic off limits? No, right? Like, I cannot give you any kind of blanket answer about the fact that you cannot write on an entire topic, because it depends on how you write it. Nothing in admissions is black or white. Everything in admissions is sea of gray. And that might make you feel unsettled, but I say embrace the gray, right? Embrace it. You want to have nuance. So this is a nuanced discussion about what kinds of things go in your personal statement. I teach that you should focus on stories, moments, and anecdotes, because those show more than just the sentences and the words on your resume that are just telling me what you've done. You want to make sure that you're showing and not telling. Now, I will tell you, if you're like, I want an example, I don't understand what's just centering someone else, or what's just telling and not showing, in the link below, I actually have just released my new $37 personal statement breakdown, because I think that it's important that you guys see what I'm talking about. So in this mini course, in the personal statement breakdown, you will get to literally watch the transformation from 4 different essays. You'll get to see where they were not going great. And these are students that I've worked with, students that are now at top law schools. And you'll get to see how we workshop them, so you can see the transformation. You can see how they started off maybe just telling. And then you can see what showing looks like. You can see when they started off centering their trauma or centering someone else. And then you can see what centering themselves looks like. So we kind of go through a few of the common mistakes, and I show you that transformation. I also give you 5 additional sample essays so that you can see, but they're just samples. I have read hundreds of personal statements. There is no one exact, oh yes, your personal statement absolutely has to look like this person. But I just wanted to give you samples so that you can see how you can begin to craft your own authentic voice. It's a mini course. It's not something that you have to be like, oh, I need weeks to do. Like, you can do it this afternoon, right? You can use this course so that you can look at your own writing and you can say, oh my goodness, I see how I can make this better. I see how I can strengthen this paragraph. I see how I can make these transitions smoother. So it breaks down, that's why it's called the personal statement breakdown. It breaks down the personal statement and it breaks down some of those common mistakes. It's just $37. The link is below. I absolutely want you to have it so that you cannot feel confused and lost in this process. So definitely make sure that you check that out. But kind of, going into this third point, right? Like we talked about why you need to make sure that your personal statement is not just a regurgitation of your resume, beyond the fact that that is incredibly boring, because they already have your resume. And by creating a personal statement that is just a regurgitation of your resume, you are actually missing out on giving them additional pieces to your application puzzle. You're missing out on the depth and the nuance, and just the flavor and the multidimensionality and the multifaceted nature of who you are as a person. Okay, and then we talked about, so, how can you avoid that? Well, you avoid that by including personal connections to the area of law that you want to practice. And you have that. You absolutely have that, because I don't believe that anyone goes through this entire process. I don't believe that you spend all this money on LSAT tutoring and LSAT prep and you're about to do 3 years of your life without a personal connection to the area of law that fills you with passion. Right? So I want you to think about that. I want them to learn something about you, and you need to tell them through stories, through anecdotes. And this last point that I want to talk to you about is showing and not telling. So what does that look like? I'm going to give you a really basic example, right? My team won the race, and it was such a meaningful moment to me. Okay, how boring was that sentence? Right? What about, I did it. I was laying on the ground, panting, and when I looked up and my teammates were rushing towards me, as the sweat dripped down my face, I could see their grins, and I knew we had won the race. You don't have to say that was a meaningful moment. With all of that imagery, I know it was a meaningful moment. You put me in the story. I could see it. I could feel it. I could imagine it. And if I can imagine it as a reader, then I am with you on this journey. So I want you to be thinking about, how can I weave stories together that keep the reader engaged? How can I put my different aspects of myself together in a way that tells one cohesive narrative? That is what your personal statement should do. That is how you make sure that they see how multifaceted and wonderful as an individual you are. And yes, some of those stories might be professional, but we're not just going to list all the accolades that you did or list all the awards. Like, listen, they have your resume, they will read it, they will see the awards, they will see that you helped 20 students and you raised $70 million or whatever it is that's on your resume. They will see it. But what they don't see on your resume is the moment that you were working late and found that answer for a client. What they don't see on the resume is you sitting in the courtroom listening to testimony that you had prepped someone on. What they don't see is you standing up to your boss and writing a letter and really advocating for HR and what that felt like. They don't see you and your coworkers brainstorming till 2 a.m. They don't see, the research that you did on that municipal law. They don't see you in the library and, eating takeout at 1 a.m. Like, they don't see those moments, right? I made all of those up. I don't know what your moments are. Your moments might be, much more chill. That's fine. Whatever your moments are, they were meaningful. They were impactful. And that will show them more about who you are, about your character. You don't have to tell me, oh, I work hard, or I'm diligent. Show me. Oh, I have good communication skills. I work well in teams. Show me. I have perseverance. I have integrity. I'm motivated to always do my best. Show me. Don't tell me. Words are cheap, right? Show me. Show me in your stories, and your professional examples will not read like a resume. So, to recap, today we covered what the difference is between a personal statement and just a narrative regurgitation of your resume, and why nobody wants that. Literally nobody wants that. And I really make sure that my students' essays do not read like that. Then we covered how you can include those professional examples in a way that is not just going through your resume, through stories, through anecdotes, through including personal lens. And then I gave you some examples of show, don't tell. How you can really use narrative writing. You can really use imagery and descriptive words. You can use elevated speech and elevated syntax to really make that impact. And leave the reader feeling like they just went on the journey with you. And leave them wanting more. So, hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to look and see if we have any questions. Oh my goodness, hello! I'm excited to be on time today. I was not on time today, so I'm excited you were on time today because I was not on time today. Hello, Christina. Hello, Zane. It's good to see you. What advice do you have for applicants who don't know the kind of law they want to practice? So this is a thing that I really do focus with my students on. I think that it is important to dig deep. And sometimes that can come through brainstorming. I use a very specific brainstorming method with my students, and sometimes students, like, they might not know. They're like, I don't know what kind of law I want to do. And then as we're brainstorming all of the moments in their life, I realize, oh, there's a theme. Have you realized you find yourself doing these things? And they're like, oh my God, I am. Like, I had a student last year who I was like, do you realize that you have a lot of stories about food scarcity and food insecurity and food pantries and food policy? Have you ever considered food law? She had never considered it. I love food law. Now she's in law school, probably studying food law. But so sometimes it comes up through your brainstorming. But like I said earlier, I do not believe that you have gotten this far in the process and the sacrifice and the time without some kind of engendered passion. And you may just need to sit with it a little bit and think, what is the problem that I want to solve? And I want you to think, yes, as a lawyer, you can do anything. You can always do different kinds of law, but you cannot do all the different kinds of law at first. You cannot do all the different kinds of law at the same time. So if you think about, okay, what is it that I want to do after law school? Like my first 1 to 2 years after law school. And if you're saying, well, I'm going to go to big law to pay off my loans. Okay, your first 1 to 2 years after big law. What is that thing that you want to tackle first? Where are you feeling that desire? Really dig deep and figure out, why am I going to law school? Because it is so important for you to have clarity on that. 1L is really hard, and if you have a grounding sense, for me, I wanted to do child advocacy, which I did. I was a family law litigator for a little bit, but I had on a post-it note, I want to represent children and advocate for their best interests. And even though I'm not practicing law right now, that's still what I'm doing. Not all children, but I work with 9th through 12th grade students. I work with those applying to law school, and so I'm still helping students find that path, find that potential, maximize their prospects. So I had it on a sticky note. I want to do child advocacy, because there were some days where I was like, why am I here? Why? Why? I should just go. And then I looked at my sticky note. I said, oh no, I still want to do that. Okay, I'm going to sit down and read this book and not quit. So I find that students that have a reason for going to law school, you have time to figure it out. Even if you have a couple of things, you have these 3 things, figure out, well, which one of these 3 things would I want to do first? Right? And maybe you can combine them. There's so much at the intersection of different areas of law. So don't be afraid of intersectionality. But if you can really think about what it is that you want to do, not only will it make your entire application more focused, because personal statements that really can show, what you want to do, why you want to go to law school. Of course, there are personal statements that don't talk about that, and students are still successful, but I am risk averse, right? So I like to play it safe. I like to, make sure it's going to work with everyone. So, you have an opportunity to convince them, right? It's your first case. You're convincing them that law school is the next logical step on your journey. It's hard to make that case, when you're not able to convey what kind of law, or just even broadly what areas you're interested in. It could be a couple, right? You can have areas. That's okay. I'm not saying this to put you in a box. You can absolutely change your mind. When you get to law school, you could take a course. You could go in a different direction. I love that. But I do want you to have some sort of focus so that especially when you're looking at jobs, you start applying for jobs in December of your first year, right? November, December. So you want to know what kind of jobs you're applying to. You only have 2 summers. You have after 1L, you have after 2L. So you want to know, okay, well, what kind of law do I want to do so I can know what kind of jobs I want to apply to? Maybe what kind of clinics to do my 2L year. Maybe my elective course, my 1L spring. So like the more focus you have, I think it makes you able to maximize your time in law school a little bit better. Sorry, that was a very long answer to your question. Okay, so you said, I want to do public interest law. I will just tell you that public interest law is not an area of law. People throw that out. I think it probably is one of the things I would like to change in public discourse. Like public interest law is like a very large umbrella that covers like almost any type of law, to be honest with you, could be both corporate or public interest, right? Not everything, family law, but honestly, I did private family law litigation. That is technically not public interest. I could have also worked at legal aid. That would have been public interest, right? So it's not like family law is public interest. Housing law, you can go any different kinds of way. You could work with people who are losing their homes. You could work with landlords. You could work with real estate developers. You could work with planners. If you're looking at health advocacy, right? Like there's so many different education law. Like you could do education law like nonprofit. You could work for universities. You could do Title IX. There is a lot, right? So in every area of law, maybe not every, but most areas of law, there's a way to make it corporate. There's a way to make it public interest, quote unquote. And so I really push students on that too, because you tell me you want to do public interest law. I have no idea if you want to be a public defender or if you want to do education or if you want to work with sexual assault victims or if you want to do domestic, violence, or children's law, if you want to work with the child welfare system. I have no idea what kind of law you want to do. So that doesn't tell me enough. Okay, but you said you don't know the specific area. Your goal is to bring people resources and support organizers fighting for transformative change. I see yourself supporting abolitionists, immigrants' rights, advocates, and more. So I am going to push you to try to get more specific because, and I love what you want to do, but I just am going to push you to get more specific because that is just so broad. It could really be anything. You're teetering on a little bit voice for the voiceless. I say that in love. But, you don't want just generics because they're not going to be able to connect as well to generics. You want something that is going to have that meaningful impact. So think like maybe do some more brainstorming about also your experiences, but your personal what's pulling you, and if you are pulled to a certain area of law that you don't have a personal connection to or experiences, that's okay. We could still kind of work with that, but I would say try to get a little specific. Think about what you want your first job to be out of law school, those first 2 years, because you can't do all of those things at once, and one of those things you have to do first. And then maybe look at different lawyers, like maybe on LinkedIn or in your alumni groups, and see what they did, what their first jobs were. And that might help you when you have a sense of what your actual job looks like. It's easier to kind of figure out what your first steps are. And then it will be also easier for you to find focus in your personal statement. Okay, there's someone else that says, I think I already sent it to you. Zane, you asked me a question about consulting. I'm pretty sure I sent it to you. But definitely check your email again, and I will probably send you a follow-up just to make sure that you got it. Check your spam folder. But I'm actually pretty sure that I responded to you, and I'm actually really excited to work with you. So definitely check your email, and if you don't, for some reason, see it, and I send it again, and you don't see it, message me anywhere, and we will get it sorted. Okay, any other questions that you guys have about your personal statement? Good, I'm glad that you're going to take my advice and do some research. That's really important. But yeah, are there any other questions that you guys have about researching your personal statement, about writing your personal statement, about your resume, and making sure that your personal statement is not just the narrative version of your resume? Make sure to check the link below to get that personal statement breakdown. Like I said, it's $37, and you will get so much goodness. You will get full personal statement walkthroughs with examples, tutorials, and tips, before and after transformation videos of several personal statements. You'll get a personal statement rubric. You'll get an in-depth walkthrough of the most common mistakes and how to fix them. And then you'll get 5 sample essays, most of them from top schools, including 2 from my alma mater, Harvard Law School. And if you haven't checked it out, Harvard Law School just wrote a blog on me on the HLS admissions blog, so definitely check that out. I love my alma mater. Find a school that will support you like Harvard has supported me. Shout out to Christy Jobson, she's the real one, and all the people in the HLS world. They really do care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and so I'm glad that I could choose a school that really aligned with my values as well. Okay, so Zane, I didn't receive it. Can I just reply your email? Yeah, definitely just send me an email at info@smontgomeryconsulting.com. As soon as we get off, I'll also make sure that it went through. But my email for anyone, in case they need to reach me, is info@smontgomeryconsulting.com. And then the question, what question should the personal statement answer? Ideally, the question the personal statement should answer is, why do you want to go to law school, and why is it the next logical step in your journey? How does the development of your passion lead to law school, right? You're like walking me through it, so then I'm like, oh, duh, right? Like they have to go to law school. Like I see, that they've been doing these things. They're like, they didn't wake up yesterday. This is a passion that they have. I see that they've been, doing work in that kind of area, that sort of thing. They have a personal connection to it, and they've been able to articulate why law school makes sense and what they're going to do as a lawyer, right? So the best personal statements are both forward-facing and backwards-looking, and kind of also talk about the present. So you want a difference in time. You don't want all of your stories to be from like last year, that kind of thing. But it's really like, why do you want to go to law school? Why law school? Why now? Why does this make sense? Why should we be, what are you going to do with your law degree? And specificity is your friend, because if I'm not convinced that you know what you're going to do with your law degree, or if I think you only have kind of superficial ideas that, maybe are a little naive or aren't fully fleshed out, then I'm not really sure that you're going to actually stay and like law school, because now I'm concerned that you're going to come and you're going to realize it's something very different than you thought it was, and now I'm concerned about that. Oh, Dominique, thank you so much for that response. She said, that's awesome. A lot of valuable information. Awesome. All right, guys, if there aren't any more questions, and you know that you can always submit questions to bit.ly/breakintoLawSchool, I will answer all of your questions for free right here. You guys know that. I have some people that come every week, and I love to see that because, listen, if you come every week, you ask questions, we get a lot done. But definitely make sure that you check out the link below for my new mini course, the Personal Statement Breakdown. I also have a full personal statement course, and that will really walk you through brainstorming, developing your why law statement, honing out on your focus, crafting your paragraphs, outlining and structuring, all that good jazz. And then, of course, I do hourly consulting as well as private full packages. So if you ever want to figure out how to work with me, also shoot me an email or just go to my website, law.smontgomeryconsulting.com, and we'll be able to figure it out then. Okay, so I am going to pray us out, and then I'll let you guys go about your Friday. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, first off, for preparing us when we didn't even know we were being prepared. There are so many moments in our life that happen, and when we're in the moment, we just don't know. We're like, why is this happening? Why am I going through this? Or we're in a job and we're like, I'm not really sure that this is right for me. I'm not sure, why God let me take this job. I hate this job. Or even if you like a job, but you're just not sure that it's your path and your calling. What we don't know sometimes is that you, God, you're preparing us for something. You're saying, I'm going to use that moment. I'm going to use that story. I'm going to use this experience. I'm going to use that hardship. And it is not only going to be a testimony and a blessing to someone else. It is not only going to help bring someone else to Christ, but it is going to prepare you for the battle, for the next level that you don't even know. So I thank you in advance for allowing us to be able to piece together our stories. I thank you for giving us the stories. I thank you for bringing us through